Whenever I talk about hard talk, there's one response I'm almost always guaranteed to hear, and that is, in my culture, respect is very important. To which I respond, well, yeah, in mine too, in everybody's. There isn't a culture in which respect isn't considered important. Feeling disrespected, being disrespected is never, ever, ever a good thing. Hard talk has been set up so that it is immensely respectful. It is respectful to speak softly, to speak in a way so that others can hear and understand you. It's respectful to listen hard, to work really, really, really hard to get other people to speak up. Hard talk is respectful. Too often we avoid hard talk for what we call the brain drains. So, for example, one of the brain drains is, as humans, we tend to be doom mongers. We anticipate the worst, we assume the catastrophic outcome, and we are way more worried about potential loss than we are about potential gain, so we don't speak up. The problem isn't people speaking up disrespectfully. The problem is people not speaking up at all. We carried out some research that found that 90% of people in the Middle East had experienced bad behavior in the workplace. Bad behavior being anything ranging from people stealing credit, to missing deadlines, to really quite serious things. But only 30% of people spoke up. In other words, 70% decided not to. But they didn't just let it go. Instead, they did lots of other things. They avoided the person, they transferred the person, they called in sick, they hinted and gossiped around the person and around the topic. And as you might imagine, this had huge implications for their productivity, their morale, and ultimately the bottom line of the business. What if people didn't behave like that? What if they felt secure enough? What if they felt strong enough to be able to speak up? When we don't speak up, we deprive other people of our opinions, of the information that we hold inside of our brains. And as knowledge workers, which most of us are, this is very, very dangerous indeed. There can also be some truly tragic consequences from not speaking up. I worked with a gentleman who is a sales manager, and he tells me that one of the biggest regrets in his career is not giving negative, critical feedback to a colleague, a younger colleague many, many years ago, and instead allowing this guy to just carry on and ultimately leave the organization. The last time he saw that younger colleague, he was homeless on the streets in the States. Now, I'm not saying that one conversation, one hard talk might have fixed all of that, but it's certainly something to consider. If we don't give people the difficult conversations, if we don't have the hard talk, we are depriving them of the opportunity to improve. And not only are we depriving them, we're putting ourselves in an invidious position. Because when we decide not to speak up, when we squash ourselves down and squash it down and squash it down until finally we just can't deal with it anymore, so we explode and we say exactly what we were thinking, but in the least respectful way possible, we get a really bad response. So we've just had proof that speaking up is disrespectful and doesn't work, and we get into the spiral of doom.